So welcome everyone to today's ONUG webinar on your journey to the cloud secured. And today's webinar is sponsored by Palo Alto Networks. The speakers today are myself. I'm Steve Collins. I'm the working group CTO for ONUG. So I'm very involved in the work that's going on in the various working groups to develop reference solutions for some of the pressing use cases that enterprises are faced with on their journey to the cloud. So this is a particularly good topic for the ONUG community today. And our panelist today is Jason Georgi, and he's the technology officer. Jason works with Prisma Access and SaaS solutions at Palo Alto, all related to cloud security, and has him collaborating with CIOs, CTOs, and other leaders on strategies aimed at delivering positive business outcomes. Today's webinar is going to proceed as follows. Jason and I are going to discuss just general observations about the current state of enterprise cloud adoption, and then we're going to take a look at some of the challenges that organizations face specifically related to security. And then Jason's going to kind of talk us through Palo Alto's Prisma solution for Cloud Security 2.0. And at the end, we should have time for questions following the presentation. And if you do have questions, feel free at any time to go to your Q&A tab in the Zoom dashboard and just type those in, and those will show up on our dashboard and we can address them at the end. So before we kind of get into the heart of the presentation here, I do want to say amongst the ONUG community, cloud security really remains a top concern. I mean, it has been in the past, it certainly is in the present, and we anticipate it will remain so going forward. For instance, at the recent Dallas event in May, we do essentially a 10-day polling. So we surveyed the attendees about various use cases that were kind of top of mind for them. And without getting into the particulars here, out of 3 of the 8 use cases that we polled attendees about, top 3 were security related. So no surprise there. And other activities we've done within the community indicate security always remains a top concern when we get to the cloud. And currently we've got ONUG working group activity looking at security related to hybrid multi-cloud in terms of SaaS applications, public cloud services, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, virtual private cloud connectivity, and even within the SD-WAN working group, we're looking at how we integrate security into SD-WAN connectivity into multi-cloud environments. So it's all very much kind of top of mind, definitely critical concerns. And so this, I think, is a good topic for discussion on today's webinar. So let me bring Jason at this point. And given that background, Jason, maybe we should start by sharing with us, based on your interactions with Palo Alto customers, what do you see as kind of the current state of affairs in the market today?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And hello, everybody. Thanks for taking your time to join us today. I hope you find this insightful. Without further ado, I'll just get right into it. My interactions are daily with a lot of customers, especially the C-level organizations, where it's really trying to understand navigating cloud and the journey to the cloud. And everybody is either partaking in that or just starting, figuring out how to start. Doesn't really matter, but everybody's got it on their mind is the bottom line. Nobody's sitting here saying, I don't have much of a cloud strategy. Obviously, if that's what's being said, you're kind of missing out on some critical business outcomes that you could be delivering. But it's really around taking a look broadly at what the business needs to achieve and how it can be done digitally. And when we talk about cloud and transformation, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what I continue to find is it's like, look, we want to take essentially what we're doing on premises, which is data centers, multiple data centers, or even extensions of data centers and co-locations, and either virtualize that or reduce the management of it by moving to more cloud-based services. And there are several benefits an organization sees by doing that. Some feel that they're sacrificing some control over that, and that's where some of the security concerns do start to creep in. But overall, they understand that business is evolving in a way that legacy IT just isn't able to keep up with. And with that, who's actually driving a lot of what's happening out there? Is it IT looking at new ways of delivering services in a way, but really what they're trying to do is deliver value to the business? In a lot of ways, what I'm seeing out there is that IT is being impacted by cloud and digital transformation. So the board or the CEO of a company or even the CFO is looking at how do we actually reduce some costs, get more agile, and do different things to be more like some of the digital companies out there. No CEO looks at things like, say, Airbnb or Netflix or Amazon and says they've got their model all wrong. They're all saying, how can I be a little bit more like that? Regardless of the business, they're trying to create more frictionless experience between what their company provides and the consumer of those services or goods. And so with that, IT has taken on a little bit of a similar mantra, both in providing the services that need to be consumed by that particular organization's customers, but also internally. We're going to look at reducing friction from the external consumer of services. Why not do the same internally? Because if you're looking at being more productive and being quicker and faster to deliver services, fast failing and things like that, to leverage a lot of publicly available services that you can consume, but easier than traditional infrastructure means. So this is where I see a lot of things going, and the outcomes that are being enabled are really key to certain businesses, right? This is not a trend. This is not how maybe telephony is looked at sometimes as, well, we're going to do this and we're going to shift the PBX to the cloud and we're going to get everybody mobile phones. It's really a shift because business is shifting. And business is trying to get faster, and business is trying to understand how to provide that digital experience for consumers. And with that, it just winds up leading to outcomes that can't be reversed or shouldn't be reversed by swinging the pendulum in the other way. The argument could be made for things like hybrid deployment and still a set of on-premises deployments for things that can't necessarily shift to cloud or SaaS. But overall, I don't see a single customer these days that says they're not necessarily cloud first. And by that, it just means everything that they're going to look at moving forward as far as a service to deliver to their business is going to be cloud evaluated first. And only if they can't do it through cloud or SaaS would they think about building it in-house or on premises. It's been quite the shift just in the last few years, and I think that's a big result of the expansion of things like AWS capabilities and Google Cloud Platform, Azure, and even Ali Cloud and some of the other services that are out there that are just so readily available. The commoditization of cloud has made it a no-brainer. The tools that are out there, including some security tools, are making it easier. Orchestration, AI, machine learning, all of these things are taking what was just this really impossible task or seemingly impossible of, all right, CEO says, I got to figure out cloud. How do I go do it? And it's actually making it doable. So the means are there. The capabilities are there. But overall, the way even internal IT consumers are consuming the services is shifting. Right. And that's throwing away everything we ever did in IT. And I have 25 years of experience, 20 of it on the IT side itself. And it's thrown everything for upside down and thrown a wrench in it, right? It's just a different way that people are working. They're working from anywhere. They're working at any time. And the constructs of an 8 to 5 sitting in an office are no longer viable. I fill my weeks with customer visits and things like that, and I cannot remember the last time, and it doesn't matter the industry, whether it's banking, retail, insurance, anything, manufacturing. I can't remember the last time I walked into an office for a meeting and it was full. It's usually half full. And honestly, that's by design, right? A lot of organizations are saying, we don't need everybody to come in unless we have certain things, or we're actually going to look at downsizing certain office space and footprints and create a hoteling atmosphere so that we can reduce some of that cost, right? There's some more of that business operational efficiency and things like that. But all what this is doing when users are working from anywhere and at any time, and all these services are now being looked at for cloud first, it's absolutely changing the security and perimeter equation. The perimeter that we had in place for so long that was protecting what we had is either eroded completely in some cases or has been significantly reduced as far as its capability to control certain assets. So it's throwing everything upside, and now it's a matter of, okay, we know we have to make these moves. We know we have a workforce that needs to be faster and more agile, so that means we're going to comply with how they want to work, right? And so how do we do that securely? That's where now the strain continues to be. Even with all the tools and vendors out there, the last time I was at RSA, I think there were nearly 3,000 small vendors and large vendors represented at the conference, whether it was a single table somewhere or a large booth. They all seemingly have a play in cloud somewhere. And it starts to get really overwhelming really fast when you try to figure out what you need to do.
So Jason, I think probably everyone on this webinar call and the ONUG community at large, I think everyone would be sort of in violent agreement that the cloud is here to stay. And I think the benefits are well understood and recognized. But as real as the benefits are, the challenges are just as real and in some cases daunting. Perhaps we can shift and spend a little time here talking about the challenges and ultimately what's holding people back from realizing all these benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really being seen? It's no accident that I'm at Palo Alto Networks and focusing on cloud security security because that's the number one concern. There's not a single person that's sitting there saying, I need to figure out automation. They're figuring that out because they have this stuff is moving. There's a hierarchy of dependencies, and security is one of them, but it is one of the things that is not always included. It's not always easy to depict what's going to be the best solution at the time, where these folks start. And when I start looking at some of the key concerns that are included in the hearings, it's like, look, I've got so many point products. I don't know what to do with them now. I don't know if they translate to what I'm trying to do with cloud. I hear a story from every one of my vendors that says, we have an answer for that, or we have an answer for this piece. But okay, so then what do? Do I just continue to add point products to the mix and create this overly complicated environment, or do I focus on a few key partners and create an ecosystem that everything just kind of works together? The skill and resource gap. This resonates with everybody regardless of company size or organization size. So even on the public and private side alike, hiring the skill sets to manage this stuff, to get it right, and to respond when things happen is really tough, and it's getting tougher all the time. Why? Because the threatscape continues to broaden and become more impactful to organizations, and we're just not hiring fast enough, making it really tough. And when you start considering all these point products, policies, so gaining a couple of these other points as well, all the policies that are going into all these that have to be managed, and making sure that you don't block something in one and allow it in another that winds up breaking something else. I mean, it just becomes an overwhelming task to try to figure out. All the while, because you can't orchestrate policy the way you really want it to, there's all kinds of gaps when it comes to visibility, and visibility in terms of where are your users, where are they going in terms of internet destinations and services, what are they accessing, how are they accessing it, things like this. Enabling new architectures with cloud and SaaS and the shift of workloads from off-premises solutions, everything that had to do with networking is starting to shift, right? Where the latency concern was WAN, MPLS or whatever, wide area network from branch to data center. How are you going to construct a mesh that works properly with whatever needs to access it, to more now my latency concern is for internet resources and things like that. Everything's kind of upside down. And beyond this, we start to get into things like better security overall, right? There's a balance of I need tools to enable my cloud journey, but I have gaps in what I'm doing for security as it is, even before I've fully embraced and moved on to cloud-based services. So how do I shore up those gap and be ready for this journey that I'm taking to get to the cloud? I need to inspect more things, right? I need to get full inline inspection of everything that I can. These are a lot of the things that keep popping up over and over again. I'm sure it's resonating with this community for sure. So hopefully, we can start to address some of these.
That's a good list, and it actually overlaps quite nicely with taxonomy that the ONUG community has developed for barriers to cloud adoption. I mean, I think we've got 8 or 9 different categories of barriers, and all 5 of the ones you list on this slide are definitely in category plus others. Right? We know cloud's a given. We know security is a problem, right? We know that's a challenge that needs to be addressed. And there's certainly, as you point out, no shortage of point products to address these challenges. So basically, where do folks start?
To me, it's pretty simple. And I'm asked it all the time. It's not just an ordering thing, but it's just like, I've got these products already, or I'm evaluating products. Where do I really just start? And it's really boiling it down to follow the data, okay? Because this is what we're talking about. The 2 most critical things to an organization are its data, whether that's IP or customer data, whatever that may be, and the people themselves, right? So if you know that you have to focus some security on the user, the endpoint, whatever that may be, what's the other big focus? Well, it's the data. And it's really simple. I break it down into 4 questions. Where is your data? Where does it reside? Is it on-prem or off? And if it's off-prem, where? And if you don't know that answer, well, that's a visibility gap. So you got to shore that up. Who's accessing it? So once the data has left the building, who's getting to it and how are they getting to it? So, are you looking at that type of thing? Are you looking at the points of entry to access your data across the board, whether, again, that could be data center, cloud, a combination or a hybrid of both? It doesn't really matter, but understanding the access to it is incredibly important. But then once it's gone, now that it is gone and you've identified where it is, are you seeing what's happening to it? And this is where a lot of suppliers and vendors in the space kind of fall down, is it's really like, okay, great. I've got secure access to my data wherever it may be. I can control who's accessing it through authentication and user context. But then once the data is out there, what's happening to it? Is it being manipulated in the right way? Or am I developing something that is up to compliance code, and the code itself is strong and not vulnerability free and in compliance with what we're trying to do. Or if I've got workloads that shift from one cloud provider to another, am I seeing that? Am I understanding what's happening between those things, and is it moving securely? So there's a lot of areas that are out there, but if you just focus on asking yourself these 4 questions, I think it goes a long way.
So before we kind of jump into the next section here, most folks on this call probably know Palo Alto best as a provider of next generation firewall solutions, and maybe don't know as much about what Palo Alto is doing in other areas of security. So maybe before we kind of dive into the next level of detail here, can you describe the origins of Prisma, the motivation, and what these different things are going to mean to enterprises on their journey to the cloud?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. Palo Alto, in most of our minds, is a firewall company. They make a really good next generation firewall, the best in my opinion. But okay, what does that mean? What does that do for me with cloud, things like that, which is also an enlightening conversation I wind up having when I do meet customers is, okay, you're the firewall guys. Why am I talking to you about my cloud security? It's up to organizations themselves to transform a little bit. You look at Microsoft and what they're doing with Office 365 and trying to change into a SaaS and a cloud-based company, right? And well on their way. When the industry is going this way, well, the providers of some of the best security on the planet have to move that way too. And so then what do you start looking at? Well, you start looking at what makes the most sense. What's going to make what your customers are going through a more secure journey and a more secure end result? And so with that, we took what were previously branded as different products that you may know as Global Protect Cloud Service. So that's the cloud-delivered internet and remote private access security, the Aperture SaaS product, the CASB essentially, and then the Redlock public cloud security product. We've taken and we rebranded those under the Prisma umbrella to say, look, we are committed to, as we've done with the firewalls and everything else, delivering an integrated platform for Cloud Security 2.0. So it's not just taking one little element, access by itself. It's not just taking CASB by itself. It's not just taking public cloud security by itself and saying, here are 3 products to go figure out and consume. We're going to sell them all to you, but it's up to you to figure it out. Everything that we're doing is around consolidation of capabilities into a platform and taking the best and strongest capabilities of those products and leveraging them across the entire platform. For example, Aperture has DLP capability. And with that, it's a very strong one that we are going to be extracting and creating a data protection service that can be consumed by the other areas of Prisma, the access side, so the internet and private access security, as well as the public cloud security. So we're taking a lot of what we're doing with the cloud itself and translating it across for things like I'll get into later with Cortex and things like that for the data lake. It's really looking at this from, okay, we've made a couple of key acquisitions that we knew we could integrate fully into the platform. Again, we are doing this diligently. We don't just buy a company and say, let's just slap a label on it and call it Palo Alto Networks. Swisslock and PureSec is our most recent acquisitions were purchased